Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, April 5th, a turnaround Tuesday from what we saw yesterday. Nasty price action, risk off theme of the day. Let me hit the risk disclaimer here before we go any further. Risk disclaimer: everything that we're going through in this video is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. So what a move back from yesterday. Such nice price action, strong breath yesterday in terms of this, especially on the NASDAQ side. It wasn't wonderful breath yesterday and more on the S&P nicey side. But, I thought we had good enough breath yesterday and, a lot of positive things. And it just kind of shows you that this market is just very different in 2022 versus what we've seen in the last couple of years, and very tricky with S&P down 1.2% today. The Q's down 2.2%, IWM down 2.3. Those, by the way, there were some areas in the market, such as the small caps yesterday, that didn't participate. Big move up in yields, also big move up in the U.S. dollar, and big move in the VIX today. And then we'll get to the sectors in just a minute, but let's analyze some of the price action. So this is not really what you want to see after a big green day like we had to start the week yesterday, with the kind of looks almost, I think that's almost, it's very difficult to tell. I guess I can zoom in to see that. It looks like a bearish engulfing candle for the day. So we may come in and we may backtest that 200-day moving average. Also 1 hour chart. You could see that it was nice that we finished off the lows of the day, but it looks like we actually got back to Friday's low, believe it or not. So that's difficult to deal with. So, what was the catalyst for the day? Well, I think we were already starting to go lower. I know everybody kind of blames the Fed speak, right? Brainerd spoke today, talking about aggressively reducing the size of the balance sheet, which could happen in the next Fed meeting, which is May 4th. I don't know. Was that a surprise? Did we not know that was coming? I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like a surprise. It just seems like, the price action just kind of dictated the move. So I know everybody always looks for a story that could be the catalyst for, for the reason for the move. But when we opened up, breath wasn't, I always, one of the first things that I do once the market opens is check where this thing is, right? Market breadth. And it wasn't red like it is now, but it certainly wasn't strong. So it just indicated that there were some issues, especially on the NASDAQ side. And we'll get to that. I'll show you the 5-minute in just a second. But the one positive thing that I would say, and it's tough to find a positive today, it really is, that there was this virgin point of control that was taken out, and we also did finish off the lows. But this was very much like just one of those days, more or less, that it felt like some of the price action that we saw in January, where just the sellers were in control. Usually in years past, what we have seen before is that when we're down around 1.5–2% in the NASDAQ, usually there's some buyers that show up at the end of the day. But once again, we're just kind of fighting with a lot of selling pressure. And on days like this, what I tend to notice is that sellers are in control. And the way that I can kind of find that out is when we look at these 5-minute bars. There was a couple times where the first 2 minutes of the 5-minute bar is green, and then by the time it closes, it's red. And so it looks like someone's kind of painting the candle, right? There's a little bit of buying that goes on in the first couple minutes, and then that last minute they're pushing it so that it's red. So there's an algo that can do that, but it also just shows you that that the sellers are in control, right? And that's what we had today, all the way down to that VPOC, which got taken out right around about 15 minutes before the close. So I don't know if that's going to be enough to kind of give us a bounce for tomorrow, but I'll stay optimistic. And there you see the bounce off of that virgin point of control. So as we've talked about before, if you start to get either below value or in this case, like it was today, you're deep below value, price will often come in and seek out where there's a high volume area, especially the really one that hasn't been revisited. So notice this one, this was back on, this was back what, yesterday, right? So we never went through the point of control. So we basically came back and filled that, right? It's kind of like there's a lot of technical traders that look at gaps that think that they have to be filled, right? Well, this sense we're coming back and we're filling in that 5-minute virgin point of control. All right. So, so that's some good news, but now I will give you some more bad news. Also for NASDAQ, right? The level that we talked about in yesterday's video, two things but basically the same level, 200-day moving average, right? And also, whoops, let me get to the weekly chart. Right, this 360. Oh, let me give you the Q's level. This 369 level, right? So that's top of the value area, and we've had some difficulty. Right, we came across this once we fell into the value area for the year. Right after the beginning of the year, we kind of came back and tried to retake 368, 369, couldn't do it. We did this last week as well, failed, and it looks like so far it's another failure. All right, let's get into something that looks even worse than this: the semiconductors. Right, and they kind of, this is a little bit of hindsight 2020, but they had a inside day yesterday as a group, and after a decent move down following the Micron news, or Micron reaction, that's a very nasty looking move, down 4.3%. So, this could be leading a little bit. I do think that the semis, I look at a couple different sectors that I think could possibly lead. Semis is one, the transports is another one, which is also a problem area that we discussed last week. I mean, very little fight back yesterday in the transports, and down another 2.7%. I mean, that's a big move from where we were just about a week ago. So this is not giving such a warm and fuzzy feeling. Another area that I look at is biotech, which, I got pretty bullish biotech, just to see where this thing gave back a lot of that yesterday's move. So we're still above this 92.34. So I'll remain a little bit optimistic that we're going to stay above there. But if not, if we come back and we lose the top of value in the 50-day moving average, that would be the place for me to remove that trade. But for now, it's just one day, and I'll give it a little bit more. I'm giving it some time. I actually added back a target that I took yesterday. Speaking of which, the way that this market is this year, I think it's very important to just to kind of reiterate, just taking targets is very important in this market. And you just really can't always, the market is very unpredictable day to day. But I mean, this is kind of, an insane move. You closed on the highs yesterday and give it all back and then some, without any major news. I really don't think, and again, like I said, I know everybody likes to know what the catalyst was, or what was the reason for the sell-off. When the market goes up, nobody asks any questions. But when the market goes down, everybody wants to know what it was that drove it. And I don't really think it's anything new. We've been hearing from Fed speakers day after day after day. So, this is just how this market has been this year, tricky. And we've seen a lot of those days where it's just, there's a big seller in the marketplace, right? And I think that's more often than not, right? I had a question too. Somebody always tries to put these relationships together, and they're like, well, I don't understand how utilities are up today. Look at the move in bonds. It doesn't really matter. If there's a big buyer who's buying utilities and because they don't want to be in tech anymore, that's your reason. It may not make sense to you, but sometimes it's just buying and selling. And that's what drives the market, right? Relationships always kind of help to know, if there is a relationships with, let's say bonds and yields and utilities and consumer staples and that type of thing. But it's really the buyers and sellers. So if people, when I say people, I always mean funds. But if funds want to be in really conservative areas of the market, those relationships are not paramount, right? So, and if you look at the things that outperformed, again, it's the utilities. Even though the utilities, are stretched. Now, would I buy the utilities up here? No, I think it's kind of crazy to, to be honest. But that's what somebody's doing right now. They do not want to be in high beta areas of the market. They would rather be in things like this. So even though they're up a lot, the other thing that was particularly difficult, I thought today, and one of the points that I made in yesterday's video is that we might see a cooling off of some of the commodity trade, right? And that was kind of my reasons for like, hey, maybe some of this growth areas which excelled yesterday may continue a little bit. But today we actually saw both go down. We saw a lot of the commodity plays and we saw the growth areas of the market go down, and it was just a move back into the defensives. So, that kind of hurt me a little bit today because I'm still long a little bit of tech resources. I did not take this off, but you could see this was down more than some of the areas that we've already looked at in terms of growth. All right. So what else? Anything else to really kind of cover from today's market? That's basically it. A couple of things that hung in there that outperformed a little bit were the medical devices, right? We've been talking a little bit about them. I actually added a trade of TNDM, right? This is Tandem. This is a name that started to kind of watch last week a little bit. It had a nice close to it. So, I'm looking for some follow through for this one. You could see the close just behaved a little bit different. I also added a trade in Intuit, which was a name that we talked about yesterday, seeing a lot of call activity. This looked okay. This looks okay to me, inside day after yesterday's, big green candle. So I think that, I would rather add names that we see option activity on days like this, where you have an inside day instead of chasing the green. And it's above value and it's above the 50-day moving average. So for now, I'm in the clear on this trade. Meaning, didn't get stopped out or anything like that. But you could see, I kind of just stopped trading for the day. I got out of some things, took some targets in some things. I tried to trade in CVX that didn't make it over this week's value area. I think CVX actually ended up down on the day. So I would have liked, here was the start in the day that it got over value. I actually took a target. And then once it broke back below 165, I decided to exit it because my signal is gone, right? So here's 165. Again, taking a small target, which is what you have to do in this market. Also got out of LTHM, which the lithium plays, a couple of these things really got smoked today, right? Look at this thing. LAC was down 10% today. Gave back a lot of that move. That's an ugly looking candle for LTHM. And I think I did the right thing. Where did I get out of this thing? LTHM 2650 closed at 2614. We'll monitor it. CVS got out of that one, stopped out of that one. That's a trade that wasn't working that I added about a week ago. ESTC, which I had a target in yesterday, took that thing off as well. So a couple stops, taking positions off that did not have any follow through or, just ended up going lower. So here was my exit on Chevron 164. So lost a little bit of money on that trade. And that's it. And yeah, I did add some SQQQ in here for late day hedge, but I really just stopped trading after 11 o'clock. I tried to day trade a little bit of Facebook. But just once I saw the writing on the wall, the breadth for the day just continued to get worse and worse throughout the session. That was something, that I was looking for to kind of get better around midday. And you could see that kind of confirmed the price action as well. So I'll leave it there, guys. I was on Benzinga earlier today. I'll say the same thing as I said there. One day is not a trend, just like yesterday's really good price action. Even though we saw a lot of positives, one day wasn't a trend to the upside. I would say the same thing, even though I'm a little bit more concerned that we got back to basically Friday's lows. We held Friday's lows, but again, just not great price action after yesterday. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow. Best thing I could say in this market is continue to take profits when you're in the money, when you're having a good day, and be nimble for these types of days. And you can add a little bit to the add some things at the end of the day, buy the dip a little bit, rather than chasing a green day like yesterday. Very important right now in this market. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.